Alright, it was an early start in the land of the rising sun for free practice 1 and free practice 2 when there was a lot that happened during this session that could really shake up the order as we head into Saturday, and a bit of a safety concern as well for sure on the track, but I'll get into that as we go through the 5 things that we learned from Friday practice for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix. The first thing that we learned is that Jack Doohan is a lucky boy. A horrible crash in FP2 to bring out one of 4 red flags. Yeah, 4 red flags in just an hour session. This was the first of them, and it was a really, really nasty crash. So for those that don't know, going into turn 1 at Suzuka, the F1 cars don't actually brake until they get to turn 2, the second part of that double right-hander. As such, I'm not sure what happened to Doohan really. I think he might have got a bit wide on entry, and that's why he had a bit of instability in the car going through there. He basically flew off the track into the barriers. The car was absolutely destroyed. Thankfully though, he was relatively okay. He walked away from that. He has gone to the medical centre for checks, but I imagine he will be past fit to race tomorrow, or at least compete in practice tomorrow in FP3. Let's just hope he doesn't have a repeat of that though, because another crash like that and the mechanics will not be able to get it ready for qualifying, no doubt, because that was a big repair job. But like I said, main thing is that the young Australian driver is alright. So I mentioned a safety concern at the Suzuka circuit, and that is for fire, believe it or not. We saw 2 grass fires towards the end of free practice 2. Now, we did see this a couple of years ago in China. I think we saw it in 2023, and what the basic cause of it most likely is the sparks from the cars, which obviously get thrown up during high load corners, high G-force corners, and I think this was at the Degner. It was either at Degner or Spoon, or it might have been at both places at the same time, but it actually did cause 2 different red flags because of that, and because of the sparks being so hot, and it's actually quite a dry kind of climate right there now in Japan. I mean, they're going to get some rain for Sunday, which will very much douse the flames, quite literally in this case, but for tomorrow it's a bit of a concern really if we see something like this, particularly through qualifying as well, because that is when the cars will be running the fastest, when the most sparks will be flying up from the cars. So I imagine the Japanese officials there will most likely water the grass before we actually start racing tomorrow for FP3 and qualifying as well, to hopefully not see a repeat of that. But yeah, little grass fires just by the side of the circuit, and we saw 2 red flags at the end of the session in free practice as a result of it. Now let's talk about Red Bull, all the white bulls if you will. They very much are in the news, of course, as you can imagine, running their one-off livery to celebrate their partnership with Honda. They've got the Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda in the car for the first time this weekend, and a mixed day I'd say for him overall. FP1 was quite good. Max and Tsunoda were not that far apart. They were both in P5 and P6, which would be a very solid performance if Tsunoda can replicate that in qualifying tomorrow. But it wasn't quite as clear cut as that. Now, there was a big gap between them in FP2. Now, there were, of course, 4 red flags, like I said, in FP2, so not everybody managed to get a qualifying run in. I think Max got a qualifying run in. He definitely got a run in on the soft tyres. Yuki only managed to get one on the medium tyres, unfortunately, so he was a long way behind. But I think the main concerning thing for Red Bull, and again, you can't read too much into FP2 because of the amount of disruptor running, but they were both behind the Racing Bulls. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Racing Bulls were quick. Lawson and Hadjar well up the order. I think they were both in the top 5 at the end of FP2. So, yeah, really weird position Red Bull finds itself in. Never a dull moment at that team, for sure. But I've mentioned 3 of the 4 red flags. What was the final one? Well, it was for Fernando Alonso. Now, Alonso's won around here twice in the past, but he's had an awful start to 2025, and it's seeming to continue, unfortunately, for him. He ran wide at the Degners into the gravel, and as a result of that, beached his car, and he wasn't able to take part in the rest of FP2. Not that FP2 was that representative anyway, but it would have been nice to still take part. So clearly, he is still struggling, or at least maybe pushing too hard in that Aston Martin car right now, so he's not having a good 25 so far, but hopefully he can pick things up tomorrow, can the Spanish Samurai. But yeah, the final thing we learned is that McLaren still look fast. It's not a big shock there. Lando Norris was fastest in FP1. George Russell, I think, was in P2 for that, so he was up there. He's looking good, is George Russell. Mercedes, shout out to them. They're a dark horses for a podium again this time around in Japan. But yeah, Oscar Piastri was ahead of Lando Norris in FP2 in a McLaren 1-2 as well, so it is looking as though this is going to be a McLaren track. We're probably going to see a lot of McLaren tracks through this season, which as a McLaren fan I'm very happy to see, but I do want to see a bit of competitiveness from the other teams, so hopefully things will be a bit closer in qualifying. I think if any of the teams are going to challenge McLaren, it is most likely going to be their engine supplier Mercedes. Ferrari don't look that great. Red Bull don't look that great either, to be honest. So I think it's between the two Mercedes top-powered cars, really, to be honest. Those are the 5 things that I learned personally in Friday free practice for the Japanese Grand Prix. Let us know yours in the comments below, and who's getting pole position tomorrow around Suzuka. Let us know your prediction in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys, and I'll link another video at the end of this one. I'll go for the full Japanese Grand Prix preview. I've done like a 45-minute preview show for you guys. If there's anything you missed ahead of qualifying, ahead of the race, it'll be in there. So yeah, see you soon for some more content just like this on the channel. And thank you so much for the 10,000 subscribers as well. We just passed that the other day. Massive thanks for that. And of course, stay tuned later as well. We got an exclusive interview with Mario Andretti, world champion of IndyCar and Formula One, Mario Andretti, that is going live today, 7 p.m. UK time. It's premiering on the channel on YouTube there. So yeah, see you soon for that, guys.